blessed month of Ramadan. Big warm welcome to our non-Muslim listeners, and a big shout out going out to the big man himself, Brother Amir. Jazakallah, Brother Amir. Very, very nice iftari today. Hope you're listening. I hope you're listening to all the crew that were over there. Most importantly, Jazakallah khair for a superb iftari. Tonight's show is controversial, so we explain that to start off with. So, the reason why it's controversial is because some people believe this is not a topic for Ramadan. They don't believe it. They say, no, this is not a topic for Ramadan. So if we can have our mic switched on, everything close to us, Brother Sajid, the editor of the Revival is on board, and the knockout, Brother Naseem, is on tune, so you know it's going to be a bumpy ride for somebody. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the editor of the Revival and also Brother Naseem. But before we do that, I beg your pardon, I just want to give out the telephone number. So we are going to have a guest on the phone, so if you want to take part, you can do by text. 07801 951 501. 07801 951 501. 07801 951 501. Just a couple of things. There are some rules to this show, and that is we are not sponsored by any mosque or madrasa. We don't stick to one school of thought. We try to be open. We try to take on board scholars who are making themselves available. Those scholars who make themselves available to our show, we give them and grant them every single hospitality. And they know fully that those brothers that come to the radio station come with a very, very warm welcome, and they leave with a very big debt of gratitude. And earlier I've heard rumours, the bongo drums have been going, that somehow we're disrespectful to scholars, that somehow all we do is we gang up on them, we exploit them, and we make sure that a scholar leaves here thinking he's a bit of a not scholar. That's a polite way of saying it. To those people who make those slanders and accusations, I'll just say this. Supposing, Brother Naseem, I came to your kebab shop asking for a kebab and you give me a slap in the face, would I be coming twice a week for 10 years?
Probably not.
So when when people turn around and wonder about the talk show, look, we have the far right. Wake up. We have the far right who are our enemies. It's not us. We ask the questions, and when we're pushing scholars, if that scholar isn't up for the job, they've got to think to themselves, look, you knew what the topic was. You knew why you were invited to the radio station. Salam, dua, drinks, always the highest acclaim and esteem for that scholar. If you didn't know your topic, you shouldn't turn around and blame us for it. There are one or two scholars who have rung me today, beg your pardon, that's a lie. They sent me a text message and they said, brother, you know what it is, we don't want to come onto your show because you're too aggressive. You know, all I can say to that is, I'm not going to mention those people, but it smells like chicken to me. Buck, 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 buck. Sounds like they don't want to come in. What can I ask them? Somebody who actually claims openly not to be a scholar. But anyway, without wasting any further time, and a big welcome to the editor of the Revival, the shotgun himself, Brother Sajid. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you with your new tracksuit on, Brother
I'm
Sajid?
fine, you like it?
Yeah, I'm liking it, yeah, it makes you look 10 years older. And come fighting out of the blue card with any further introduction is Brother Naseem Ashra. Brother Naseem, how are you?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
So without any further ado, I want to thank the studio for giving us the opportunity to present the Let's Talk show. If you want to listen in, you can do www.fastfm.co.uk, fastfm.uk. Brother Sajid, what is our topic? And it better be important.
I think from all the topics that we've done, I think this is, I would say, not just important, but I think it's an issue that people are concerned about. It's an issue that for a long time now, parents are concerned, parents are speaking to schools about, and Brother Nassim, who's, our guest today, has been working really hard on this issue, okay? We're not going to agree on everything on this issue, and I think those who listen to the show might not agree on it, but I think people are concerned, and you have a right to be concerned, and you have a right to make sure it's your children who you are concerned about. So that's the important thing. So we're going to be talking about RSE, relationship and sex education, which the government has, will be making compulsory, I believe, from next year. Okay, and I think the issue that are going to be taught there about LGBTQ plus, etc., and parents are concerned. So what we're going to be talking about, what is RSE? What exactly is being proposed? What exactly is going to be taught? Why are people in Birmingham and elsewhere protesting about this? And in terms of what is it that are we scared of what we do? Are we scared that are we a community? Are we people? Are we parents who can't tolerate different people in society? Are we homophobic? Is Islam homophobic? There's a lot of things we can go into. Inshallah, we will have a guest on the phone, Imam Asad Zaman, who will be on the phone in just a few seconds. And we have Brother Nassim. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you?
Yeah, good, yeah.
Are you looking forward to the show?
Yeah, inshallah ta'ala, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think this is a show that's close to your heart because, mashallah, you've been working extremely hard. You've been on the BBC, you've been on a lot of TV channels, discussing this issue. And I think you've got the WhatsApp group, you've got quite a lot. How's all that going?
Alhamdulillah, it's going really well. I mean, the thing is that what's important, inshallah ta'ala, is the engagement. The engagement level that we've had with the schools, with local authority, it's been very positive so far.
Oh, good job you said that, because you kept saying engagement 3 times. I thought, right, there might be somebody to hold on hand. It could be another marriage or something.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't think the system would permit that.
No. But alhamdulillah, yes, so the engagement that we have had with local authority, with the schools, with parents, it's been very, very positive. And we want to, sort of roll out that good practice across the borough, especially in our hometown of Oldham.
Yeah, just on this topic tonight, some parts of it you will think are made up, but they're not made up. Some parts you will not believe that these are government policies, and you will find out that if you do nothing about it, and you think, well, you know what am I going to do? We will tell you what you can do. I beg your pardon, we will explain to you what you can do. Can't tell you because it's your own choice.
Yeah.
But we very much like your support for this. So inshallah, let's go to our caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Brother Zaid. I'm the presenter of the show. Jazakallah, my brother, for coming on board with us.
Yeah, you're most welcome.
Can you hear us very well?
I can hear you, yes.
Jazakallah.
I can hear you.
Great. Okay. So if for any reason you can't hear us, you can let us know, and then we can turn up the volume, etc. But inshallah, you should be loud and clear. So what I'm going to do in the studio, we've got Brother Nassim. We've also got Brother Sajid Iqbal, the editor of The Revival, and we're talking about this nice and easy subject of the religious and sex education, RSE. So, Brother Nassim.
Okay, Jazakal Khair, Brother Asad, welcome to the Let's Talk show in the glorious month of Ramadan, Alhamdulillah. So I know you've been actively engaged with the RSE, the relationship and sex education. You've been speaking very eloquently on the BBC, etc. as well. So we want to know, first of all, what is RSE?
Well, there's 2 parts to it. You've got your sex education and you've got your relationship education. And although sex education is not compulsory in primary schools, it is in secondary schools. So essentially those are the 2 aspects of them. And of course, it's really, it's a vast area, the whole thing of relationship education and sex education. But there are certain aspects that are of concern to not just Muslims, but anyone really of any faith that practices his or her faith and is concerned about sexual morality.
Assalamu alaikum, it's Sajid here. How are you?
Well, Alhamdulillah, Sajid, Alhamdulillah.
I think with this issue, a lot of parents are concerned, a lot of parents are confused. So, what do you think is the reason for the parents to be concerned? And what do you think is also the reason why the government is going to make this compulsory? What is the purpose behind RSE?
Well, the government is saying that we have a diversity of community, a diverse elements. We have different faiths, we have different colors, ethnicities, and also sexual orientation. You have gay and lesbian, and you've got trans and various others that have been recognized by the government.
Okay.
So what the government is saying that this legislation, this syllabus, is aimed at ensuring that no one is discriminated against, which is perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily how the schools are presenting it, and that's where the issue is.
So what is the concern then? Is it because it seems as if, the narrative that is being highlighted in the media is that, parents, and especially Muslim parents, they're homophobic. They seem to be, by opposing to being taught SRE, they are just highlighting how homophobic they are. So what would you say to that?
Okay, what is at the heart of it? Why are Muslim parents concerned?
Okay.
Well, as I said, Muslim parents, Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, right across the board. And they are concerned because right at the heart of sexual morality, which they are brought up with, which is in their books, which is in the Quran as well as in the Bible and other books, is that the only sexual relationship God Almighty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has endorsed, has allowed, is that between a husband and wife. And therefore, the teaching of a morality that removes that clause that says, well, actually, it's okay to have other relationships as well, which your faith may or may not be against, that's also allowable and it's okay. And of course, we're going to have a problem with that because it's directly opposing the values and beliefs of those people who believe in something called sexual morality.
Yeah.
This is doing away with it, and in effect, it is creating an atmosphere of hedonism, one which basically says anything is okay, just make sure that your partner is willing.
What if I said to you...
We have a problem with that.
Sorry, what if I said to you, I was just watching a program the other day, I think it was the chief executive of the trust who introduced the No Outsiders lesson, and what they said is that we're not teaching children about same-sex couples in the sense of sexual couples. All they're teaching is that there are different families. There may be children who come to school who may have two mums or two dads, and it does not make them feel as outsiders. So what is wrong with that idea? And just because we disagree with homosexuality, from a faith perspective, what is wrong for our children to be made aware that there are other children and families who have two mums and two dads? So what's wrong with that?
Okay, there's a couple of issues here. One is, of course, age appropriateness. Why is that why is that important to a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old? Which is the kind of ages we're talking about, that the starting point is.
Okay.
So, yes, we don't have a problem with children being told that, some people have two mums or two dads. That's fine. That's the reality that we are living in.
Okay, yeah.
Now, that's one thing. Giving information is one thing. But then to give the impression and use material that gives the impression that morally it is perfectly okay to have that scenario, that setup, that's where we are going to have a problem, because obviously that goes against our faith, because, as I've already said, the only sexual relationship God Almighty has allowed, has endorsed, is that between a husband and wife.
So is your main concern, especially from the parents, about the age appropriateness? Because I just want to give you another quote here. There's Anna Cole from the Association of School and College Leaders. She said that they would talk to children about relationships that they can understand at a level that is right for them and that they are ready for. Okay, so, and the government on this issue has also said in the statement that it wants to teach the building blocks that are needed for positive and safe relationships of all kinds, and subjects will be taught in an age appropriate way. So if the government and those who are behind this are also understanding that it needs to be age appropriate, so what is your concern here? Because if the government is ensuring that, have you seen the material and do you feel that it is not age appropriate?
Well, I can tell you, I actually teach children from right across all schools. I prepare them for, grammar schools, staff, and what have you. So I get a diverse number of children from different schools. A lot of them from primary schools, from secondary schools. So I do talk to them, and this is on a daily basis we're talking about, and I ask them, what is your experience of whether it's PSHE or whether it's sex education, relationship education within schools? What's actually being delivered? Never mind the wording that you just mentioned, that you read out, that this is what the government wants. What's actually happening on the ground?
All right.
And of course, now one of my students, he said to me just, I think it was last week when I mentioned it, he's now year 11, doing his GCSEs and that, and I'm helping him with that. And he said, well, actually, when I was in year 5 of my primary school, so we're talking about 5-6 years ago, he said a teacher came into the class, and the majority of the children are Muslim children here in Manchester, within that particular school, and he said to them, effectively, 1/3 of you are going to be gay. Now, is that appropriate?
Wow.
I think anyone with, never mind what their face or ethnicity is, would say that's out of order. So that's what's happening on the ground. And of course, there are many other instances of this where essentially a gay or lesbian agenda is being pushed.
Do you feel that there is an agenda? Do you feel that there is an agenda, and is it an open agenda? Is it a hidden agenda? And what is that agenda?
Well, as I've said, the agenda appears to be, and one can only go by the material that is being presented to children, and as adults we look at that and say, what are the messages that our children, whoever they are, will be receiving from this? And it is absolutely clear that, and in fact, the schools don't make any, don't hide this fact in any way, that it is the normalization of the LGBT plus agenda that is being pushed through the entire curriculum, if they possibly can, not just within sex education classes or relationship education classes. So when you look at the posters on the walls, which I've seen, when you look at the material, the books which are in the library, King and King and what have you, and Penguin books, and all of it is essentially saying to children, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a gay relationship or a lesbian relationship.
But
and of course that goes directly against our values.
It is, but what you've got to appreciate is, we live in England, so in this country, homosexuality is legal. In this country, you can have a gay marriage. Now, as a government, as a teacher, you have to then make sure that there is no discrimination. Okay, so the purpose, for my understanding, of teaching this RSE is to make sure that they tackle homophobia in school. And there's a lot of stats that I've actually come across. Okay, I'm just going to give you one stat. You can tell me whether you disagree with it or not. This is from the Government Equality Office, National LGBT Survey 2017. It said that 19% in education had experienced verbal harassment, insults or other hurtful comments due to being LGBT. 88% of these, the more serious incidents, were committed by classmates. 9% were committed by teaching staff. So just because we disagree with it, that doesn't mean that our children should, when they go to these classes, are told, you know what, there are people in your class who might be gay, there are people whose parents might be gay, okay? You don't have to agree with it yourself, but why are we kind of getting so scared and blowing it out of proportion? I mean, I'll give my own example. My son is 12 years old. I've sat down with him. I've explained to this is what Islam says, okay? But in your school, you're going to have some people who might be gay. You're going to have some people whose parents might be gay. So I go, what I want you to do is, you might not have to agree with them, but from an Islamic point of view, you're going to treat them like you would treat everyone else.
Yeah, but that's you, Brother Sajid. You've explained that to your son. What we're saying here is the government thinks it's better that somebody who doesn't know their son, doesn't know how to explain these very sensitive and very, very important subjects, should go about it without any kind of, and what the brother Asad is saying is that there is an agenda. What we're saying is that in a school there might be, the capital word is might be.
Okay.
Are we cultivating it to will be from a might be? Do you understand my point, Brother Nassim? What I'm saying is, if we have an agenda, and that agenda is that we are actively promoting this, there's a lot of things that are legal. Doesn't mean you have to do them, does it? It says that you can drive at 70 miles an hour on the motorway. But do you have to drive at 70 miles an hour? You could drive at 60.
Well, on this issue, I'm going to bring Brother Nassim on this as well, because he's not used to sitting quietly, which is, and this is what the argument, and the arguments I'm pointing forward to, that the arguments that are put, whether it's on national TV or radio or what I've read, and they're saying that something is wrong, sinful, and shouldn't be happening, isn't that homophobic?
Well, no, not really, because what with that rhetoric, what you're effectively saying is you're closing down the door of dialogue. Okay. You're effectively saying that you have a second opinion, and that second opinion is now invalid. What we're saying is that two valid opinions can coexist, and they have coexisted for centuries without any problems. Well, even what I'm saying is that even for argument's sake, and I always use the argument of being vegan. Right, so if somebody is vegan and somebody is a carnivore and they both sat at the table, could it be the case that now what the vegan is saying, that if you are slaughtering animals and you are going against morality, my morality, what their belief is, you are now a vegaphobic? The
reason why I can't accept this argument,
you're shutting down the argument.
I understand your point, but I can't accept it. Let me tell you why.
Sorry, brother, I said yes.
Look. Let's give another example. I mean, there are many examples one can give to make that distinction between not agreeing with a particular lifestyle and being totally hateful towards it.
Okay.
For example, homosexuality, fornication, adultery, and homosexual relations fall within the area of kaba'ir. They are major sins. But so is, for example, alcohol. Now, I don't drink alcohol. I've never drunk alcohol. I have told my children that alcohol is haram, that they should never touch alcohol. But I have never told them that they should hate people who drink alcohol. I don't hate people who drink alcohol. That's a matter between them and the law and them and Allah. And therefore, could someone call me alcohophobic? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So in the same way, yes, homosexual relations are forbidden for me. They're forbidden, I've told my children they are haram for them. But we do not hate people who indulge in these relationships. So there is a very clear difference between the school saying to everyone, you shouldn't discriminate against anyone who is gay or lesbian, for example, and normalizing it for everyone to, and saying to them that this is a perfectly valid lifestyle for everyone. No, it is for them, those who indulge in it, but we don't get our values from society, we don't get our values from Parliament, we get our values from the Quran, just as Christians get their values from the Bible and other people get their values.
If you don't mind me asking then, in case some people aren't aware, what does the Quran actually say about this? Does the Quran actually say that homosexuality is forbidden, and is it a sin?
Okay, let's be very clear. I personally, I used to use the word homosexuality once upon a time, but
Okay.
ever since the gay marriage law came in, I've actually stopped using it, because when you look at what the definition of homosexuality could be, it could be feelings or actions.
Okay.
Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not legislate against feelings. Feelings, people can have all sorts of feelings which lead them towards certain actions, whether they are sex with the same gender, opposite gender, it could be fornication, adultery, it could be incest, pedophilia, bestiality. All of these sexual activities obviously are based on feelings. So we're not going to be talking about feelings. That's a complex issue. So let's talk about actions. God Almighty legislates against actions, whether it is with the same sex or opposite sex or any other kind of sexual activity. And he's made it very clear that the only sexual contact he has allowed is that between a husband and wife. In terms of the Quran, let me tell you very clearly, the whole episode of Lut is very, very clear for everyone to read. And without going into too much detail, essentially, when Lut al-Islam, the Prophet Lot is saying to he says to his people, keep away from this, they essentially say, well, bring it on, what's going to happen? God Almighty will punish us? Well, tell him to punish us. And God Almighty says to them, very clear, that I created women for you to satisfy your sexual desires, and you prefer men. You are indeed a people who have transgressed. And so Allah's attitude towards this sort of activity, he has made crystal clear. The Bible also is very clear. If you read Leviticus chapter 20 verse 13, it is even more stronger than what the Quran has said. If a man has sex with another man, kill them both. That is what the Bible says. Check it up yourselves. Leviticus chapter 20 verse 13. So the attitude of our Creator is crystal clear. It doesn't leave any room for ambiguity at all.
So what would you say to people who, the parents, who are gay, the children who's, I've got two moms, two dads now, and then, a lot of the people in the general public who think, what kind of people are these Muslims, Christians, people of religion? Surely, we've been saying it, there's no room for religion. They've not caught up, they're a bit behind times. If you are telling me that my lifestyle, the way I live, is backward, is wrong, is a sin, then it's your views that need to be updated. How dare you judge how I live my life? And if you have an issue for this to be taught in schools, then it just shows what kind of a closed mindset you have. What would you say to that?
The simple fact is, you use the right word there, judge. We don't judge anyone. That's not for us to do.
When he says
That's
wrong,
for God
and when he
Almighty.
says the sin, isn't that judging?
No, it isn't.
No.
All we are saying is, for a Muslim, we are Muslims and we get our values from the Quran. If a non-Muslim is going to indulge in an action which opposes the Quran, well, that's up to them. They don't follow the Quran.
Okay.
We follow the Quran, or should do, and therefore those values apply to us. It doesn't apply to anybody else unless they follow a scripture that also has the same message in there as well. So we're not judging anyone. We're saying for us, according to God Almighty, our Creator, this particular lifestyle is not endorsed by Him. It has been forbidden by Him. It's not in our interest as human beings. That's why He has forbidden it.
Okay.
And therefore, we will not indulge in it. You do what you like.
Okay. Sheikh, how long do you have? I believe you're quite short of time.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay, Jazakallah.
Sheikh, then a question I've got for you is that if we are saying that according to our understanding of the message and the Quranic text, that this is not something that we're judging people against, and we also then say that other religions of the book have a similar stance on this, then how come could it be said then that this is wrong because the Pope recently on an airplane actually took part and did a civil marriage? So is it just the Muslims who are on their own at this? Has Christianity and Christendom moved forward with the Pope openly saying that he would, well, he has done a civil marriage on an airplane?
Look, I can't answer for Christians. They have their scripture, and if they wish to follow their scripture, that's up to them. If they don't want to, they want to pick and choose, cherry pick which aspects of their scripture they want to follow. That's not for us to judge. I can only comment on what the Quran says and how we ought to be reading it and understanding it and implementing it within our lives. And not everyone does, obviously, implement every aspect of the Quran. My job is to encourage those who, first of all, help those who don't understand what the Quran says to help them understand it. And if they need any help and advice along their journey of understanding and implementing the Quran, I'm there to facilitate that journey.
Okay. Jazakallah for your time, Sheikh. We do appreciate it. Okay, and inshallah, I only found out about yourself through Brother Naseem, so now that I've got your contact, inshallah, we're going to invite you on the radio a lot more, inshallah.
You're most welcome, inshallah.
Can I also say a very, very huge thank you to you, Imam Asad. Alhamdulillah, you're doing some fantastic work. Keep it up. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. And inshallah ta'ala, I'm sure we'll cross paths again. In fact, I'm going to call you in the next few days, and then we'll have a get together. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feekum.
Yeah, just wanted to thank you as well, Sheikh. I said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase your knowledge so that you can share it with others. I'll be very, very grateful for your time, especially this late in the night. So until next time, keep us in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, there we have it. And that was quite eloquent. I got some information there. You've got to remember, Brother Sadi, that's on a telephone line where we can't see some interaction. Yeah. But the points are pretty clear. So, what do you make of it? Brother Naseem, too quiet for too long, which isn't you, but what do you make of this? This RS, religious...
relationship and sex education.
What I want to say to you is this. If we say that we don't want anything to do with it, then our kids grow up, and when they leave their schools, they're going to bump into people who are gay.
Yeah. Okay.
They're going to see all this. Then are they not ill prepared?
Well, no, because what you're saying there is that what the schools are saying and what the government is saying as well is that the schooling has evolved, the society has evolved, it's changed, etc. And therefore, by introducing this kind of topic within the schools is to show that evolvement or that evolving element of society.
Okay.
What the schools are failing to understand, or the government is failing to understand, that parenting has also evolved.
Okay.
There are hardly any parents who do not teach their children about equality or inequality or about different families and different kinds of families. What we're saying is that the schools and the parents should be working together to find a common ground where both age appropriateness, religious appropriateness, every single cultural appropriateness, everything, all the sensitivities need to be taken into account, and then develop a set of resources, set of policies that can be taught together in an inclusive manner so that the teachers and parents are on the same page.
2 points. Yeah. First
Only
point.
2?
For now. First of all, just from what Brother Zaid was saying, let me put this question to you. And I was watching something today, and there was a debate, and one of the guy who is a homosexual parent, this was his argument. He was saying that are parents not doing the child a disservice by not allowing their children to have that education, that all families come in all shapes and sizes? What are they afraid of?
Right, very good question, because that's a very ignorant view to have, that the parents are not or are somehow withholding that information. Many parents, yourself, you've already just said that you teach your children, I teach my children. If this question is risen, or asked by the children, we address it, and we address it just like the Sheikh said as well, that this is what our perspective of it is. However, there are families that come from different backgrounds. There are couples, there are families come in all shapes and sizes, whether they've got two mums, two dads, etc. It is not our place as Muslims to have any kind of prejudice against any kind of people, regardless.
That's a good point you mentioned, and I just want to bring you on that is, now we have to be honest here, and we have to have an honest conversation here. So one of the arguments is that the RSE classes are there to tackle homophobia in school. A child is not born with prejudice. So this is the argument.
Yeah.
It's a learned behaviour. By teaching RSE in schools, the level of understanding increases and the bullying reduces, which makes a harmonious school. Now, what the issue is that a lot of parents, no matter what background or faith they are from, the reality is that when they are going to be talking to their child at home, not everyone is going to explain about it. Some people will use words which are derogatory. Some people will use words which are not nice towards homosexuals. Some people will say, don't be like that. Some people will they won't be neutral, they will be prejudiced. So what happened then, and this is the concern of the school, that child will grow up thinking that that hating or speaking like that, being discriminatory against homosexuals is okay, and then that's where the bullying comes in. So that's why they think, right, we need something like this. So our kids and of Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus. So when they grow up, they think, you know what, I don't agree with what they do, but I've got no issue with it in terms of I can get on with it, because so I can see that point of view. Can you see that point of view?
I can't, because I can't see it, because the very fact of the matter is there are no stats of prejudice recorded ever. I mean, you've got that 19%. I'll give you another stat. There's another organisation which I don't really need to give that. Well, yes, there's that organisation. They've done the stats and they said 50%. Do you know how many people they asked? 2 people.
Wow.
They've asked 2 people to arrive at 50%. Oh, come on. We know, we've done a lot of research, intense research on this. They've asked 2 people. And what you have to understand is that if you look back 10 years ago, the prejudice or that hatred was coming from the white indigenous community. They were being, gay people were being called, and pardon my French, they were being called all sorts of names. Things I can't repeat on radio.
It's happening now.
It's happening. Can I just say, I agree,
but not from the Muslim community. The Muslim community has always been.
Can I just say this? You know what you said. I follow that rationale. The reason why I said I can't agree with that wasn't simply to sit next to Brother Nassim and sing Kumbaya later on. Was because if we think about it, anyone of faith has a default position, and that default position is my faith says X. My faith also says that I don't hold any kind of ill feeling or malice or hatred towards anybody like that.
So what's the issue then?
So the issue is that the sex of this program shouldn't be. If the minute a person says, "Look, I'm a person of faith," they should have nothing to do with it. They should say, "Look, his faith has its own set of rules. Hang on." And that set of rules will govern him. If, for example, you've got Charlie Badam Pista, who is from a different background, has no rate, has no thingy, that's the person who needs to go on the course, because they've got no fallback position. And people of faith, whether it's the Jewish faith, whether it's Muslim faith, Christianity, Sikhism, Hindu, they have got some position on this.
Yeah.
People of no faith have got no position.
I think what's important here is that the children are only going to be using terminology in the playground to bully one another with terms that they've heard at home.
Yeah.
Right?
And also,
so if you want to train somebody, train the parents. Okay. If you want to create awareness, train the parents, create awareness amongst the parents, educate those parents who have gone through the education system hating people who are different. Yeah. That's where the target audience should be.
Okay, that's fine. We also argue, and from the research I've done on this issue, is that a lot of them say that the issue is that yes, it is the law of the land, and now this has become legal, but the law also says the parents need to be consulted.
Yes.
Okay, now, my question to you is this, is that parents argue that they should be consulted, but if they disagree with homosexuality and can't accept that there are parents with 2 mums and 2 dads, then what do they want to be consulted on?
Right. Well, that's a good point, because that's what the media narrative has been as well.
Okay.
However, all the parents that we've spoken to, none of the parents disagree with the law.
Okay.
They are only saying that their concerns have not been sought, i.e. the second part of the law, which is about consultation,
Yeah.
which is about communal understanding,
Yeah.
that part is not being deployed. The schools are shutting the door and effectively saying that we are the educators of your children, and if we are the educators of your children, your debate or your a conversation with you is meaningless.
But what conversation can you have with a parent? Well, let's just say I'm from the school, and I say, okay, Mr. Ashraf, you want to chat? Okay, then. So, but you said, no, I don't want any homosexuality to be taught in school. And you say, well, hang on, what this program is about, how we can make sure that this issue is discussed in a way that you're comfortable with. But if parents, or from an Islamic perspective or a faith perspective, don't want this to be taught in school at all, then what is there to be discussed?
The majority of parents that we've spoken to have no issue with the actual subject itself.
So what's the issue then?
The core issue is that they are only teaching one side.
Right.
So, for instance, they're calling in outside organisations without parental consent,
Right.
without consultation with parents,
Okay.
without sharing resources, and effectively deeming it that we are the people who are the educators of your children, the primary educators of your children. They're taking the parental rights away. That is the core
So are you
issue.
saying that before they do that, the parents should know who they go actually
Right.
bringing in?
Yes.
But is that a requirement? Because in
Well-
every subject, are they going to ask parents, well, for this subject, for science, I'm going to bring in this guy from this. Do they need to do that?
Every other subject doesn't have guidelines stipulating
Right.
how it's being taught.
Okay.
This one does.
Right, okay.
Okay, so when you've got guidelines, because the government also understands how important and how sensitive this topic is,
Yep.
right? They understand that.
Yep.
So, and they have stipulated to the schools, to the governments, to the local authorities, that parental consent must be sought. Consultation must be sought. That isn't happening. Now, when outside organisations are coming in
Yep.
from the LGBT community, from other communities, they are passing off their own agendas, right? They you know, like Sheikh said, that there is somebody who comes in at the age of 5 years old or 6 years old, and they're being told that a third of you will be gay. Come on, where does he get those stats from? How dare he come in and say that? It's not for him to say that, right? Just like I'm not going to go to an assembly and say, by 2037, Mr. Right-wing person has said that 80% of you will be Muslim. Right? It's not going to happen. Who gives me that right to say that to my children? How do we know that? Number one. Number two, sexuality is a very personal thing.
Okay.
It shouldn't be washed in public. Now, for a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, you're teaching them those kind of terminologies. You're normalizing that kind of terminology. That kind of terminology will create the platform for other children to be bullied. And this is happening. When you use those words, that's exactly
But if the government and certain organisations are saying that, and even Sister Jamila, who was here the other day, and we were talking about abuse, and she also quoted a certain percentage of people in schools who are bullied because of being LGBT. So the issue is that are we saying that there is no bullying or not a significant amount of bullying at primary and secondary schools to those children who are LGBT? Are you saying that's
well,
made up?
the child in a primary school doesn't know whether they are whether they're going to have bread for breakfast or they're going to have spaghetti for lunch. They are confused about all sorts of things. They're innocent, right? They're not Muslim, they're not Hindu, they're not Sikh, they're not Christian. They are innocent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls them ma'asum, which literally means completely innocent. They're not accountable. So therefore they're not accountable, right? So they don't follow any belief. Now, subhanallah, when you look at that and you think to yourself, why are you then posing this or imposing this indoctrination on these children? If there is a case, and many schools that we've spoken to, it's very, very little if it does happen at all. If it's a case where something has happened, then it should be dealt with by the anti-bullying policy, which every single state school and every single faith school in the whole of Britain has. and has had for quite some time. So anti-bullying, so you call in the parents, you call in the parents of the perpetrator, you call in the parents of the victim, you get the teachers together, you have a meeting and you isolate that incident and you deal with it and you nip it in the bud.
Okay. In terms of what is actually being taught, do we actually know in terms of the context, in terms of the syllabus, in terms of the books? Because, you know, if they are saying that, because I think I've read myself that, you know, the story of some penguins, you know, the two male penguins, etc. And so they're using the storybooks to kind of make people, you know, aware that there are people in society with the same sex. Okay. Again, I'm not being devil's advocate here, that's not my style, but if our children, again, if they were taught that in school, they would know already what Islamic perspective is. They're being taught the other side of the argument. And what's wrong with being taught the other side of the argument? To say that there are people in your society who might be your friends, who might be in your football team, who are gay and whose parents are gay, so they exist. So what's wrong with that?
So that's how the government's got this legislation through. You see, they have posed exactly that question, and it seems very logical. It seems very calm, collected, articulate, right? However, in schools, that's not what's happening. The resources are something completely different. If you look at some of the resources, and some of the schools have used those resources, where there is a man and a woman actually having intercourse. Having intercourse, then there is a man and a man, there is a woman and a woman. So these kind of things are really detailed and explicit in resources.
Are these for primary schools?
Primary schools, especially primary schools. My point is that why, if the schools have got nothing to hide, then why are the schools not sharing the schools that are not sharing the resources? I'm saying not all the schools are. Some of the schools are really good, right? They are sharing the resources.
What do you mean by resources, Brother Nassim?
Resources. I mean the videos that they're using, the books that they're using. If they've got nothing to hide and they are completely innocent and on board with the parents, why are they not sharing resources? Okay. Why are they not sharing the videos, etc., with the parents, just like the policy or the guidelines actually stipulate?
Well, Zal, if you want to read out some of the numbers or any of the text that you've got.
Yeah, indeed. So start with the first one. Excuse me. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Wali Ali Khan, the Don WK. Good to hear from you, brother. Next one here. No name for this one. It says, this is an attack on society as a whole because people won't understand. But I bet you by bottom dollar that no one will do anything about it because our brothers and sisters will think somebody else will do it for them. Another one here says here, Assalamu alaikum, very learned scholar. What was his name? And that I think was
Sheikh Asad Zaman from Manchester. Alhamdulillah.
From Manchester. Another one here, brother. The answers so far seem a bit wishy-washy about whether or not you should opt out or be able to opt out. From what I can gather, there's no harm in just finding out. So there's no harm in it apparently. Another one here says, Assalamu alaikum, very exciting show. Great to hear some new topics for a change. Good work.
Okay.
Another one here says here, brothers, this is very, very frightening. What I wanted to ask is it factually going ahead? I know that some schools are against it, and privately they talk about how to opt out. So maybe not every single school is on board with this. What do you think?
That's correct.
So on these issues, then, let's go through these then. So first of all, someone said this is an attack on society. Would you agree?
Well, the thing is that it depends. I mean, the attack on society is only if like the brother said, that the Muslims are sleeping or the society at large is sleeping. They're not really bothered. They send their children to school and use it like a free babysitting service. If you allow that to happen, then of course you're going to sit in your house and think that everything is attack on society. If
from
you
your
look at
point
it,
of view, from your point of view, because you work in this, in this field at the moment, what is the response from the Christian community, from the Jewish community, from the Hindu community? Are they also making this into a big issue, or do they think, well, it's not an issue?
well, they are. They are making it into an issue, and they are addressing it in the appropriate manner,
Right.
which is what the difference is.
So what
Right.
they're doing,
What
they're
they're
doing that Muslims are not
that
doing.
Muslims are not doing.
So what are they doing then?
Right. So what they're doing is they are doing exactly what we started here now.
Okay.
So they are approaching the schools. In 5 or 6 parents are approaching the schools very eloquently, very articulating it really well, explaining their position and asking to have the guidelines deployed at that school. I.e., let's look at the resources together, let's work on this together, let's teach our children about this sensitive topic together. That's the only way forward. Or the other option is pull your kids out, homeschool them.
Yeah, and we've got a question about that as well, which I will come in a second. But we've also got this issue about opting out. So just to clarify then, when this comes into power, I think from next year, so will there be an option for parents to opt their children out from primary school or secondary school?
Secondary school, no. Primary school, there will be, but that's only for sex education, not the relationship and sex education.
Okay.
i.e. the LGBT stuff. That's not going to be an option for you to be able to
All right.
find out.
And someone said, is it factually going ahead? So meaning that some schools have kind of changed their mind, haven't they? So is it going ahead in all schools or is it individual?
For that brother or sister, I'm going to ask them, where have you been, bro? 2010. This has been rolled out since 2010. The Equalities Act was all about this.
So why is it to a lot of parents the shock then? Why is a lot of parents thinking what's going on?
Because we've been
Because
sleeping, bro.
we've been sleeping and we don't partake in our children's education. And this is the saddest part of the thing, that now all of a sudden the earth has ripped. Allah's been saying the earthquake is coming, the earthquake is coming, and now the earthquake is starting. Oh my God, nobody told me.
There's going to be an earthquake.
So for those parents who are listening and those parents who are concerned, what can they do?
Well, what they should be doing is in Oldham, especially in Oldham, we've created an Oldham Parent Forum. The Oldham Parent Forum is a control forum. We will take on the concerns of each parent, no problem at all. We will create a team of 5 or 6 parents who are articulate, who can express what they say. They're educated as well. They're not going to be just throwing slander at the teacher, accusations. That's not what we want. We want the teachers and the parents to work together in a harmonious way, to be able to teach our children very eloquently together. Now, some examples I can give you of good practice,
please,
right? One school, I can't mention any names. I mean, there's 7 schools that we've approached so far
okay.
in Oldham. There are 60 odd
What's
schools.
the attitude been when you approach them?
Alhamdulillah. You know what? I can't thank the schools enough. The schools have been absolutely fantastic. They've opened the doors. They've done multiple assemblies. They've done big assemblies for the whole of the school. Then they've done smaller ones just for the parents who are wanting to be involved in the steering committees. So we've created steering committees. We've created a steering committee that will look at all the resources. We will look at all the material that's going to be used, which organisations material should be used, shouldn't be used, etc. What is going to be actually taught. The schools have even gone as far as saying you can partake in the lessons.
Wow.
Right? So come on, brothers and sisters, up until the point that you go knock on their door, they don't even know that you're concerned. There's no point in shouting and bawling at them.
Tell us,
other people.
Brother Nassim, you know these assemblies and you've been part of them. What's the message in the assembly?
The
What
message-
is it you say?
The message from us or from the
From you,
teachers?
yourself.
From us is that, look, we have concerns. They are sensitive and genuine concerns that our parental right is not being sought, just like the guidelines actually stipulate. And there are two opinions on this, and people are allowed to have 2 opinions. That's fine. However, the consultation part and doing things together is not happening. So what
when
we
you're
need to
doing
do,
an assembly, you're not saying that in an assembly, are you?
yes, that's exactly what we're saying. Yes.
So you're saying in front of the pupils, look.
No,
this-
in front of the
In front of the
assembly.
pupils,
The assembly is for the parents, right? When I say assembly, it's a big meeting.
Right.
It's a huge meeting,
All right.
right? So
I
what
thought you
happens?
meant school assembly,
Right.
the
Okay.
kids are there.
So what happens is that we go and we'll go to the school, articulate what our issue is. The school will then, out of the people that have attended, the parents that have attended, they will create a steering group. A steering group that will look at the resources up until the point that it's decided what the policy is going to look like, what the resources are going to look like. The schools have been really great and they've removed all the lessons absolutely.
Right.
Up until the point it's been decided. Now that is a big stance to take from schools. Come on, guys. You know, we have to give them credit where it's due. So There are a few schools that have at the moment refused to have any kind of dialogue with us. However, we're working on them, and we're working on them with the local authority. So they're on it, we are on it, but we do need parents to calm down. We need parents to calm down, think about this rationally. Look, the law's already passed. 2010, I said, the Equalities Act was already passed. It's already being rolled out. If you're not partaking in your child's education, in fact, yesterday, I was in a different town, I was in Keighley, near Bradford, and I spoke to a head of RE there,
Right.
and she came to the Unity Iftar, and she said that the uptake from parents is so low that I'm shocked that these children will actually get GCSEs.
Right, okay.
That's the concerning part.
So I suppose when it comes to a lot of parents, I mean, they don't kind of get involved too much when it comes to GCSEs and when it comes to everyday, homework. So I think a lot of parents, do you think that they actually don't understand the issue, or do you think they're scared to approach the issue, or do you think they're scared of being labelled? And at the same time, what about organisations in Oldham? What about the Oldham Council? I mean,
I don't think parents are scared of being labelled.
I think can't be bothered.
I think they just can't be bothered. I
but
think
if
they
it's
just
a
can't be
child,
bothered.
then why won't they bother them?
Brother Sadie,
Well, because
let me
they
tell you
use it
something.
as a free
Yeah.
babysitting service.
You know, we talked about this, how many years ago, Brother Nassim, when it first came out?
Well,
And
my first khutbah on this element was in 2009. 2009, the Equalities Act. We keep going on about the equality. It protects religious characteristics. Yes, it does, but it also protects homosexuality's characteristics, right? So what I'm saying is, at that time, we should have said, no, actually, that Equalities Act, there's got to be an allowance for two debates to coexist. That's what we should have done, but we didn't do that. We just strode along. This topic is being taught in schools for 4 or 5 years now, consistently. It's only now that one school has taken it up and broadcasted it, put it into the public domain, that all the parents have started to get concerned. And I bet you bottom dollar that if we give it another 6 or 7 months, these same parents will probably go back to sleep again.
Let me ask you a question then. So, what would be acceptable in terms of how SRE can be taught in schools without it offending parents?
Very, very good question. And there was a school here in Oldham that has already started creating their own resources.
Okay.
They're not looking at using outside resources.
Right.
They do feel that the people who have created the resources from the outside organisations have got an axe to grind. So they are doing it in a very, very nice way. They've got, I'll give you an example here.
Please.
They'll have one assembly in a year, because that's what the stipulation is, that you have to have one assembly in a year, or you have to teach the school once in a year about LGBT, or different families come from different backgrounds.
that's what my question was.
Right.
How often is this going to be
It's
teach?
just once. The stipulation is only once a year. It doesn't have to be more than that,
Right.
right?
Does it say how long it is a year? How long the duration of the lesson is?
No, it doesn't say. It doesn't. This is my point, that there's a carrot there that's been thrown in and then left for the parents and teachers to fight it out. So this particular school, they've got a slide on different owls. Right, so 2 pink owls, a blue owl and a pink owl, and it's got different coloured kids, etc.
They're trying to make it under levels.
So lots and lots of different owls, right? 6 or 7 different types, and they basically say they don't use the word gay, they don't use the word homosexual, they don't use the word sex. They just say that different families come from different backgrounds, and it's okay to be different. Halas.
Let me put another
Is
question.
that not
Okay.
ample?
It's okay, but I think some kids might not really get it.
Well, that's fine.
That's fine.
Let me
If
just
you
give
pull
you
that
one point.
slide up and take it off after 10 seconds, job done.
Let me just say one thing. There's a school in Manchester. It's a Manchester Islamic School for Girls. I read it in the Manchester News. You can tell me how correct this is. Now, this is an Islamic school. They teach RSE in their school, and they're saying it's important to be taught, and they're teaching it bearing in mind the religious context. And they are openly talking about there are people in society who are gay, there are people who are lesbian, there are people who got 2 moms, 2 dads. They're saying no issue.
Is it primary school, secondary
It's
school?
a secondary school.
Okay. That secondary school, we should have asked Sheikh Asad on that, because he would have been more educated, well versed on that. But I don't have any knowledge about this particular school. However, I'd be interested to learn about what resources they're using, how they're doing it, what guidelines, what policies they've created in order to be able to teach this. I'd definitely be interested in knowing that.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem with people learning that there are different societies. We don't have an issue with that. Fostering is a big problem at the moment. Children with 2 mums and 2 dads is common amongst the fostering community, right? My foster child that we had a few years ago, she even today she calls me daddy, and she calls her own dad daddy as well. So she always says, I've got 2 daddies. She calls my wife mummy, and her own mummy as well. So she's got 2 mothers. So to assume that every single child who has 2 parents or two mummies or 2 daddies, to assume that they automatically belong to a gay parenting background is also ignorant, in my opinion. So we've got to look at the challenges that we face, isolate them, deal with them on an individual level that is bespoke for that child. That's what I think. If there's any kind of bullying going on, any kind of prejudice going on, that should be dealt with.
Well, you know what the harsh reality is, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is now that, because I didn't want to get into detail with the Sheikh too much, because of the lack of time. Do you not think, I'm going to desire that, ask you this as well, is that do you not think that a lot of, I'm just going to talk about the Muslim community for just a few moments. Do you not think, Zaid, that a lot of people within the Muslim community are homophobic, in the sense that the terminology that they use, and I can't say on radio, and the way they speak about people who are gay, the way they kind of use derogatory terms, and they use it in terms of banter. And when I worked in my previous place, there was a lot of Asian community, and they would always speak very ill of people who were gay. So does this not argue the case that, from a young age, if you're not openly having these conversations about homosexuality, then when you grow up, you are going to be a bit of kind of, these guys are a bit weird.
The thing is with that, brother Sajid, when you on the face of it, you see banter, or you see bravado, whichever way you want to call it, and you see that through not just the Muslim community, you see through everywhere.
Yeah.
In my office, there's a lot of people who are openly gay, and there are openly lesbians in there. But when it comes down to it, these are off the shelf, off the cuff, without thought remarks. I don't think there's any hatred behind it, because people don't say, listen, I'm not going to talk to him about it, I'm not going to go near him, I'm not shaking his hand, he's gay. I'm not going to shake. They don't do any of that. What any community, Muslim community is the same, will have an opinion. I don't think that opinion is, if it was that Muslims don't allow, when have you ever heard of any organisation where they haven't allowed anybody from the homosexual, lesbian, transgender into their premises? I've not heard of it. And yet there are Christian organisations. The baker shop had a legal case that won, being one of them. So we are more tolerant. We might say it, but it's a lot of hot air. I think deep down, prejudice, what people say is, I might not agree with it. They keep themselves to themselves, and I keep myself to myself.
Because where I worked, in my previous employment for quite a while, was that, I would say 30-40% of people there were gay. So before I went to that workplace, I never come across anyone who's gay. So I'm like, it's the first time I met someone, I'm like, because I've not been exposed to people, of that community. So then over the years, once I spoke to them, I had conversations with them, we had discussions, we had debates. Not that I like doing debates, but we had the
Did you have your radio mic as well?
Well, I tried. So the idea was, it was about being educated from both sides. So I used to ask this question about, are you born gay? Is it biological? Is it scientific? Is it genetic? And then having all the conversations, and it's about having that conversation and not being embarrassed to have it, and it's making sure that you can agree and you can disagree, okay, and you can get their side of the story, and you can understand, put yourself in their shoes. You don't have to agree with it. This is why I'm saying I'm not too concerned about this, because especially at secondary school, because I think a child who is 12, 13, 14, he's got the capacity to understand, to disagree, to know, well, actually, my dad or my mum told me, actually, that's not the same me, but I can understand what they say. So having that conversation, I don't think, personally, my only main concern is if it's 5, 6, 7-year-old, they don't have the capacity to
I think every parent that I've spoken to, and my own concerns are during primary years.
School, okay.
I think that has to be
And
consolidated.
even though I was just watching, as you can imagine, the last couple of days I've been watching quite a lot of videos for the show, and it was this morning, and I don't know who the lady was. It was an English white lady, and she was arguing, and there was, for a long time that her main argument was the age appropriateness. Yeah. And I watched another lady, this Christian lady, and she was also saying that age appropriateness. Yeah, and there's some kind of agenda. Now, this leads on to the issue then, is if we are saying, okay, we don't want this to be taught in private schools, and we have an issue with it, what is the alternative if the school says, you know what, whether you like it or lump it, this is what's going to be taught?
Homeschooling is always an option, isn't it? Homeschooling, alhamdulillah, has risen above the
I don't think it is, Brother Nassim. Homeschooling, no. So, if we think about it, and we say that your kids go to school 5 days a week, and I don't know how many days of the academic lunar year that kids are at school, but they're not there for 365 days.
No, they're not.
They would be there, by my estimation, if you take out all the holidays, probably about 9 months. Yeah, because there's about 6 weeks there's a holidays also, about 9 months.
Yeah.
So out of them 9 months, if you get your act together, and this is the thing that we say, if we dare to call ourselves Muslims,
yes,
dare being the word, and we get our act together, and what we say is, look, we're going to write an eloquent letter to our schools. Once we write a letter, we want to look at the business. What is it you're showing them? Well, that's not appropriate, let's use this. Yep. Now, if you went down that line, and they say, no, we still have to show them something, then you could tailor it down and say, well, okay, the ruling age, how long do you propose? If all of a sudden the school say, well, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to have one lesson every week, you can say, well, that's actually not what you need to do. Mm-hmm. You could argue that, because you could say there is no, at the moment, somebody could say we're going to teach it for 20 minutes or an hour once in a year. That's what it could come down to. But what I'm saying, the reason why I say homeschooling is, my understanding of homeschooling is you take kids out of school to teach them everything else for the sake of that 1 hour. Do you think that can be right?
Well, there's a question that's just come through on Facebook. Some schools are blatant. A high school for girls in Manchester, girls 90% Muslim, on their website says, our aim is to usualize LGBT across the whole school curriculum.
What is
usualize?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Usualize. Is that normalize? What is that? Is that?
I think that must be the school that I might have been.
Right. So So I know this school now. Yeah. So let's look at it that they are responsible, and whoever goes there is paying for their child to have an education which is private, so they're expecting it to be better than what they'll get from a comprehensive school. Mm. 2, they're expecting an element of that to be Islamic.
Okay.
So what they will be saying is, look, in keeping with that, usualising it, what we can do is we can say, look, this is the belief, this is one aspect of it, this is the Islamic sector of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're being clever with their advertising so they don't get any, because the first people under the microscope will be Islamic schools.
Well, the thing is that Ofsted are giving extra brownie points for the early adoption scheme. So anybody who is taking on the topic early, they're getting extra brownie points for that. Any schools who decide not to teach this, they will be stripped of their Ofsted ranking. From 2020, it's become legislation that they have to teach regardless of what the school is. The Jewish community have actually taken a stronger stance on it, and they've said that we're prepared to leave the country. Subhanallah. So there's lots of momentum. People are working on it. The solution, though, is to work with the schools. If the schools are shutting the doors, then you have to look at alternative teaching methods, or maybe alternative schools.
Somebody on the BBC said that if the schools don't do anything, they might turn into a riot. I don't know who that could be, but
I have no idea who said that, but we look. You know what? It doesn't really take a lot to do that, does it? The fact is that was an 18-minute interview, and
that's the bit I remember.
Yeah, that's the bit that they aired.
Well, Zayed, if you got any text message that you want to go through, then we can. I've got a couple more questions to show.
What I also said in that same clip is that it's not something we will be promoting. Exactly. It's not something that we are for. We are totally against that. Yeah. We will be, using every ounce of blood and energy that we have in order to stop that. Because brother, what you have to remember is that when all the fun and games have gone, when the cavalry's gone home, the fairs have packed up and gone, we are left in Oldham who live here to pick up the pieces, and we don't want to be there.
So we've had a couple of them, and it says here, are we making a mountain out of a molehill when we don't know how long the show is going to take? Another one here, it says here, brothers and sisters, this is an example of the Muslim Ummah being the Muslim, I'm trying to read what this bit is here, ostrich sticking the head firmly inside the hot concrete. So we don't want to know. It is always somebody else's problem. The Muslims and the brothers and sisters in the studio are bang on. We will ignore it until we come home and our children ask us and shame us at the dining table.
In the studio, just sat in the corner on the sofa there, we've got with the staff. MashaAllah, if you want to, you can take part in the show as well. You can grab that chair and we'll get involved, inshallah. What I wanted to ask was, basically, but this, not that I ask controversial questions, but this is an issue that needs to be kind of raised, which is that, and this is the question that is put to people who argue this case, is that what if your son, Zayed, what if my son grows up and says, Daddy, I'm gay? Yeah? What do we, or what would I as a parent, how do you address, what would you say, what would you do? What do the scene first of all?
Well, you know, the Sheikh actually quite articulated that quite well, that there is inclination, there's inclination and feelings.
Yeah.
Inclination and feelings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never judges on. Okay? And we don't judge anyway, because we're not God. We don't judge people. We are here to judge only ourselves, right? Nobody else. And we don't impose our values and our beliefs on anyone else. We don't expect anybody else to impose their values and beliefs upon us.
Okay.
But inclinations, so inclinations and feelings. Now, those inclinations and feelings are perfectly normal.
Okay.
That's allowed.
Okay.
Right? This is why the verse in the Quran says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. So it's a case of oppressing the nafs.
Okay.
If we can oppress that nafs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that Jannah has been created for you. So
yeah.
the teaching or the foundations of the education start there at that very early age. Now, it's okay for my child to come home and say, I've got these inclinations, etc., etc. If he acts upon those feelings, the act itself, there is absolutely nothing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs for me to do with him. I can't ostracize him. He's still my son. I still have duties on him. He still has duties on me, right? I can still coexist with him without agreeing with his sexual orientation, right? Can't I? What I'm saying is that if we close down the debate and I simply say, look, astaghfirullah azim, cut him off, he's look for my inheritance and chuck him out, is that what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us? No. Regardless, right?
Let me put this up into this
There's one more point I'd like to make on that, yeah? So homosexuality is a kabira guna, right? It's one of the major sins, right? But what is the biggest sin? The biggest sin in Islam is shirk, right? Associating partners with the Almighty. Okay? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Maryam, that, and they have committed the biggest sin. They have committed the biggest blasphemy, and they have said that the Almighty has begotten a son. Who is he talking about? Christians, right? Isa alayhi salam. So Jesus Christ, they've said that he is the begotten son of Christ. So what is the actions after that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us? For the biggest sin, you can't get anything bigger than this. In fact, Allah goes on and says that had the mountains heard this, they would have split asunder. The skies would have broken. Everything would have completely gone. Now, to associate a son with the Almighty is the biggest. My hands are actually trembling. You know, the immensity of the verses, right? And the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses in those verses. And subhanAllah, straight after that, why is there a sujood? Because you fall in the awe of the Almighty. How can He have a son? Now, yet the action for a Muslim is not to take any action against them. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still calls them Ahlul Kitab. He doesn't call them kafir. Look at the point, yeah?
Because you committed a major sin.
They committed the major sin, the biggest major sin. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still calls them Ahl Kitab.
So what you're saying then, so you're making that comparison.
Yes.
So
And it's a bigger comparison, more
Yeah.
dangerous comparison.
okay, I get the point. Saf, how are you?
Welcome to the show.
The Ayatollah Rock and Roller coming on to you.
Yo.
Yes, brother Safi.
Yo, Assalamu alaikum.
So have you been following the show so far today, brother?
Yeah, sorry.
He likes to fiddle with things. There's nothing wrong with that microphone. We got it from a good source.
Okay, so with the
Job is taswiri.
let me. So what we've been discussing so far in terms of the RSE, we've been kind of discussing what it is and what the concerns of the parents are who are opposed to this, and but Naseem has been kind of talking about how to approach the schools, what the options are. What's your understanding of this issue, and what are your concerns, or what are your points?
In terms of my understanding of it, it's a bit of a novice level. I've just read up on a couple of, the legislation that was put forward, and for everyone that was petitioning against. They had it there in detail in terms of what's allowed, what's not allowed, and how it's going to. They're proposing it to be proposed to children right now, and so in that sense, I'm not an expert in the field, and but it's all the question.
Yeah. So what? This is what you do last.
Yeah.
He's
Sorry.
frozen again.
Yeah.
No, I mean, because you mentioned to me that you were quite kind of passionate on this
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
So what is it about this issue that you feel passionate about?
You know what, brother Naseem just said there. He just took away everything I wanted to say. Really, I think in terms of
In the show.
in terms of it's exactly how I felt. First and foremost, the first thing that about myself was that in terms of it being, because I had a discussion with somebody. She was actually, I forgot her name, but she was trying to research in terms of why Muslims are finding it so hard to accept this. And I ended up stumbling into a meeting, and that they were having. And first of all, it's not just Muslim community that object this. I'm sure you've discussed this before. But the thing is, it's not that we object it. They were saying that why do Muslims find it difficult for us to accept that children are going to be exposed to this? It's not about the exposure that we have an issue with. They should get, if we're growing up in this environment, our children have to know what they're going to come across and what they're not going to come
What
across.
do you think the issue is?
But I think the issue is conflict. See, when they're exposed to it, for instance, children are exposed to burglars, they get exposed to thieves, they get exposed to different things that we say that are sinful.
Okay.
And when they get exposed to it in the same light, there's no conflict.
Right.
As Muslims, we believe that that's a sin. As Muslims, it's sinful to do that. So we're Muslims, so we're going to say it's a sinful act. We're going to teach our children the same. We want them to be Muslims, so we're going to teach them the same thing. So when they go to school and then they get told at home that, listen, this is sinful, and they're not getting exposed to it at school. That's different. They're not getting told that, look, there's different types of people. They're getting told, if you want to be one of these types, it's fine. That's where the conflict is, because now they're getting told different something at school.
Okay, so don't you think that in that situation, I do apologise for cutting you off.
No,
you
it's
give me
fine.
what before, so
No,
I just can't help it,
No.
which is that, and I think this is what we've kind of come to this discussion, is that when you are living in this country, when it is the law of the land, when having gay marriage is legal, and you've got people in the school who've got two moms, you've got two dads, you've got school children there who are gay themselves. So and I'm going to come to Brother Zad in a second. So the point is this: you don't have to agree with it. And I gave an example before. My son is 12. I sat down with him. We had a detailed chat openly. This is what Islam teaches. This is what our view is. But in your school, when they teach you this thing, understand it. Look at what they are kind of teaching from their point of view. You don't have to agree with it. It's good to know what the other side of the argument is. And what I want you to make sure is that you don't discriminate against anyone. You treat them, if they're friends in your school, that's fine. You don't have to agree with it. So what you're saying is, if they are exposed to it in school, it will create a problem. I don't see how it can create a problem. I can understand if it's a primary, if it's 5, 6, 7, it could create. Secondary school, do you think it will create a problem?
No, I was speaking mostly about primary school.
Primary, okay.
Yeah. I don't think secondary school is going to create a problem. They're a bit more able to make their own choices at that age. But I'm talking about more in terms of primary school, that a child he needs helping with his decisions at that age. You know, the parents are going to try to, especially as Muslims, like we had a show on this until the age of 7, that we want to try to preserve them from, we want to make their experience of life as positive as possible. As Muslims, we don't believe that exposing them to something that we consider sinful is necessarily positive. That's more of a negative. We're not going to tell, we're not going to tell a 7-year-old about fornication is haram. We're not going to tell them that. You know, it's part of our religion, but we're not going to tell them fornication is haram.
It's not age appropriate.
You know, it's not age appropriate.
I had a conversation today with my son. I was like my older son, but you know, the other one was 9, and he said to me, with a cheek smile, "Why are you talking about this in front of me?" You know, he said, right, and I said to him, "Listen, the reason why I'm discussing this in front of you, because in your school probably next year they're going to be talking to you about this, but in a lot more detail. So you need to be made aware of this. You're not a baby anymore, and in this society you're not going to be treated as a baby. You need to know this, and then you need to know it from an Islamic perspective." So when you say that, you know, it's not age appropriate, if they are going to teach it, don't you think as parents we need to start teaching it before?
What I mean by that there is, it's not age appropriate for the school.
Yeah.
I go back to what Brother Safi says, which is the prophetic teachings are far better. So let's remind ourselves from 0 to 7 what we and how we are supposed to be with our children. Friendly. We're meant to be their best mate. If they can't talk to your best mate and you've lost it. So the analogy that your son comes at 10, you lost him at 7. Never mind 10.
Yeah.
So you're talking to him about everything. I watch the news every day, and there's something that comes up, and instead of, you know, when it comes up, like there was the court case that involved transgender. My son wanted to know what transgender was. Yeah, just go and get me some bunny. Do I do that? Oh yeah, go upstairs to mum. No, we explain it in our own house because we know our own son and we know our own daughter. That's what we say. We're not saying we're hiding away from it.
So isn't that the alternative to all of this, rather than?
Well, there isn't an alternative.
Rather than being so concerned about what.
Brother Sadi.
What I'm saying is, rather than being concerned and rather than kind of doing what the people in Birmingham are doing and do a protest, if we've discussed here, if we have conversations with our children who are 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and we explain to them all the concepts about sexuality, you know, and also from an Islamic perspective, so when they are exposed in school, they will understand.
Yeah, but hang on a second. You know, before we start lambasting those people in Birmingham, for something that they've gone and done, what Brother Nassim said is articulated, well-mannered letters that go to the schools. If those schools turn around and say, because I can quote schools who I've helped other people who simply don't understand the law. Okay. And when I say to them, hang on a second, that's not what the law says. Yes, it does. I mean, you go and make a meeting, you sit down with the head and say, well, this is what the law said about bullying and the reporting of bullying. You haven't done it. All right, well, it's not our school. Your school policy is up to you to decide. This is legislation. So what I'm saying to you is that with this, it is concerning. It isn't something that you can just discuss in your home, because I've always said, we are only amiras in our home internally. Outside, we're not. So they need to know. So children need to know. I would say the minute something comes up on TV, if your children are curious enough to ask, give them an answer. Some things, you know, when they talk about horrific rape cases and all, I don't explain to him that. I'd say that's not appropriate for you just yet. But what we know is going to talk to him next year. Why not talk to him about it now?
So what does it?
So see, there is a couple of points I wanted to make. One was about the promotion of relationship and sex education and the LGBTQ++ PP, whatever it's going to be called next, right? See, what you've got to look at is that the LGBTQ community, first of all, is that now that I mean, where is this going to end? The paedophile community have now said that we want to be added to the LGBT community. Now the ones who are the ones who are...
Isn't that a bit controversial?
Well, no, at the moment it might be, but believe me, within 2 years it might get passed as law. What are we going to do then? You know, the person's got inclinations to have sex with a child. That person's got inclinations to have sex with animals.
Well, there's clear laws for that, isn't there?
No, there isn't. No, there was clear laws. There was clear laws for this as well. Okay. Having homosexual relationship was illegal in this country. It wasn't that long ago, you know. So what I'm saying is that we've evolved, you see. So next evolvement could be paedophilia. The next evolvement after that could be having sex with children. Where does our moral stance, our religious stance, stand? That stance is not going to change. The Quran is not going to change, right? So the Bible is not going to change. The Torah is not going to change. The scrolls of Abraham. The point I'm making about the promotion of these things in school at that age, if you go back to the 80s, the mid-80s, and there was a massive push on pregnancies.
Yep.
Right? Teenage pregnancies wasn't a big problem at that time. Yet there was a massive promotion on teenage pregnancies. There was a huge thing. They had these stats as well. They asked 2 people, one of them got pregnant, so it's 50%. Okay, they lashed it out, right?
Yeah.
They rolled it out in our schools. Free contraception, free this, free advice. Da, da, da. What happens? They promoted it. They created a platform. Now today, 30 years on, they have got the biggest, the epidemic of teenage pregnancies. Pregnancies at the age of 11, 12 and 13.
So are we saying here, I'm going to go beside now before it hits me, are we saying that that let's not talk about it, let's make sure no one discusses it in school, okay, and then everything will be sorted?
No.
So just hold that pause, go on with the side.
Yeah, okay. Right, we've got loads of text messages coming in. First one, it said here, Salam brothers, I'm a parent in Manchester.
Yeah.
There are concerns in our schools, and it mentions some schools here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to mention the school, but you know how Brother Nassim was talking about the information and an agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah? So this is recently 5 pillars exposed. Hidayah, gay lesbian Muslims, also teachers in the school, yeah? The literature Hidayah gave to kids. The poster, and I've got a picture of it, and I just want to listen to this for questions. So some questions, and this is, when did you first decide that you were straight? How old were you?
When I was 13.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah. When do you think gender and sexuality are interchangeable?
Whenever the assembly comes in and says that you could be a boy in a girl's body.
Exactly. Do you think Allah, God, the most forgiving, the most merciful, would choose to ostracize certain Muslims?
Well, Muslim is a verb, isn't it? It's a doing word. So you've got to be doing that. And what God Almighty is actually saying in the Quran is choose your way of life. You can decide to be Muslim, or you don't have to be Muslim. It's not compulsory for you to be Muslim. If you do something against Islam and you fall outside of Islam, then that's up to you, and it's between you and your Creator, not for me to judge, right?
Don't feel necessary that you have to answer.
No. I think it's very good, because I've had that question on radio.
Have you ever read the story of the Prophet Lut? What do you think happened in it? Now, these were some of the material that was sent, and I can tell you now the organisation, so you're aware of it, and it was the Rainbow Trust, who are a pro-gay, open company, not a charity, and they offer the Rainbow Flag Awards for Central Staff Pledge, and these are what they're handing out. So what we've got is, we've got an organisation who are funded by who we don't know. And their agenda is not to show tolerance, but theirs is the opposite. They say, look, I have this at work, where people come to me and they say I'm homophobic. Yeah? Oh, he's homophobic. He doesn't like lesbians, doesn't like them. I said, hang on a second. What do you know? What is it that you don't think I know about them? So, and this is a stupid example, I know. I'm a Man United supporter.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm a Man United supporter. I want to sit in the middle of the Kop. I don't want anyone to say anything against me. I want a big poster saying Liverpool have never won the league. Do you think it's a great idea or not? No. Not a good idea, is it? So what I'm saying is, I said to him, look, to be a Muslim, we believe in tolerance. We believe, I don't have this, if you feel that you're gay, that's up to you.
How can
but
we
what I'm saying, hang on, Saj.
Go on.
Hold on to your bullets.
Turn into a speech then.
Yeah. The reason is when you're asking you 50 questions, other people have to speak as well. So
that's one question.
you've had about 2.5 hours with it. You have multiple questions. So what I'm saying is, the speech is this: that what Brother Nassim is saying is spot on. That argument is both ways. The minute somebody says I'm gay, so, well, I'm not gay and I don't believe in that I should be gay. You're homophobic then.
Yeah.
No, I just don't. I have no hatred towards you. I've got no ill feelings towards you. I treat you the same as anybody else. I just don't have to be gay.
Okay, can I say something about that?
No, not yet, because
Okay.
we've got some more text messages,
Go on,
Brother
then.
Sajid.
Then I'll go to Brother Saf, who's patient, yeah.
No, I'm good listening as
It
well.
says here, LGBT started to protest against parents of children, and it mentions loads of schools. So lots of, if we don't do something, LGBT and transsexual, which is a new one, yeah, they've already got a campaign in mind.
Okay, one point on that. That's a very good point that you just brought to my attention. A very famous English presenter said on a very famous primetime television on ITV that he started talking about Islamabad. You're not living in Islamabad, and he was talking to a Bengali brother, which completely ignorant. But anyway, however, he wasn't well versed in what country the guy came from, and he started asking about stats in Islamabad. Now, let me tell that person what the stats in Islamabad are. That Islamabad, 25 years ago, Islamabad is in Pakistan, by the way, not in Bangladesh, where the co-presenter was from. So Islamabad is in Pakistan, it's the capital of Pakistan. And in Pakistan, 25 years ago, a third gender was already recognised. Already recognised.
Yeah.
It's common knowledge. We've tolerated. We're compassionate towards transgender people. We love the people from other communities. There is absolutely no hatred whatsoever. He was comparing Islamabad and saying that they are homophobic because you've got this Islamabad rhetoric. That's what he was saying, right? That's what he was insinuating. However, third gender is already there. We're totally tolerant, totally compassionate. All we're saying is that you be you, I'm being me. That's fine. Two opinions can coexist, right?
When you say that, we are very tolerant, but I said we're very tolerant, okay? Now, the counter argument, how can you say you're tolerant, yet you don't want to discuss this issue? You say you're tolerant.
But we do want to discuss this issue.
Can I ask a question?
You asked the question 10 minutes ago. My memory's not that bad. You asked the question 10 minutes ago.
How can you say?
Didn't let anyone answer
How
it.
can you say that you are tolerant when you don't want your children who come to the school to learn about sexuality? You don't want them to do it. You want to take them out, so you can't be tolerant then. So what you're saying is.
So what the assumption is in that question is that we're not teaching our children about this, right? What we're saying is 75% of parental rights belong to the parents. Right? Parental responsibility. 75% of parental responsibility belongs to the parents. 25% of parental responsibility belongs to the state. Let's keep those stats in real time, right? So
not the other way around.
Not the other way around. So what we're saying is that we don't have a problem teaching our children, which we're already doing. We want to work with the school. We want to work in line with the government policies. We want to work in line with the guidelines that the government has also stipulated to teach our kids in an inclusive manner, which basically creates a more, not tolerant, a more compassionate society. We want to do that.
Yeah, just another one, Brother Sajid, yeah, is, a lot of the people who I come across and meet who are usually openly and blatantly gay, when I say to them, so when your kids grow up, do you want them to be gay? They say no.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that, they say no.
I've actually spoken to 2 or 3 people from the gay community myself in the last few weeks, and they've actually said that we do not want our sexuality washed in public. We don't want that. It's a private affair.
When I've spoken to people from the gay community, what they say is we don't choose to be gay. Yeah. They argue that we are born gay.
Inclinations.
Okay. Now, the Muslim or the Christian or the Jewish is that no, you're not born gay. You choose to be gay. Okay. So then they feel that again you're not very tolerant, because what you're saying is that this, because they have to go through a lot of persecution just to kind of be who they say they are, and we're saying actually you're not born that way. You've chosen it. So deal with it when what they are saying is actually I was born this way, I'm not chosen to be this way, this is how I am. So why can't you accept me as I am? And
there's two opinions. There's two opinions on that.
The difficult question is, which I find a lot of Muslims struggle to answer, which I'll open up, is that, and they always say that, why can't people from religious background accept that love is love? Why do they always have to say men? Let me put the stuff in here on this one as well, because, and again, I'm not being devil's advocate. These are the arguments that I've seen, and I don't, and I'm not come across.
Well, let's answer them then.
So what was the question? That why can't we accept that?
Because
love is love, and
yeah, because we're saying that we're very tolerant, and we're saying that, you know, everything's cool.
Well, what he's saying basically, Safi, is that somebody says, look, I was born this way. Yeah.
The thing
Lady
is,
Gaga song, isn't it? I was born that way. Anyway, go on.
yeah, you know, the first of all, you know, it's like what Brother Naseem said, that, you know, there's many people born with many inclinations, to get me, you know, and you're gonna inherit certain things. Some things are gonna affect you environmentally or inherently, or your own, you know, however choice as well that you want to make. But Islam, quite simply, it has do's and don'ts, and it has in betweens, you know, and if you feel like, for instance, what you hit the thing on the nail, in the sense of, it's not about having those inclinations, it's not about having those desires. A person can grow up and say, I just love fornicating. You know, what does that mean? In essence, it's desire. It boils down to desire. You know, whether a person wants to spend his life with him or her illegitimately, yeah. So with her, is that the legitimate process via religion, via Islam, and with the same sexual, there isn't. You know, and if a person says, now I want to do that, it's quite categorically a sin. Likewise, if a person decides to do something else, if he decides to robbing people, if he has a logical understanding behind, oh, I was raised like this, I had a bad environment, my father was like this, my mother was like this, comes out with some justifications for himself to do so, now Islam not going to come and cater for that. Islam not going to cater for any inclination that you have just because you find a logical justification for it within yourself. Whether that's, look, I was born like this and whatever. Like I said, Islam it takes mental disabilities into consideration. It doesn't take desire, you know, a false desire into consideration.
Yeah, they're all challenges.
Brother Naseem, let me ask you this.
Essentially
Yeah?
challenges.
And I did have some stats on this, but I didn't bring them in. I didn't eat some of the sedges, no. They're not that tasty. Yeah. So, if we're looking at this idea where people are born with this, I was born gay, born lesbian, I was a man trapped inside a woman's body, woman trapped inside a man's body. What these are desires, yeah? Inclinations and desires, yeah? So somebody said, no, from a very young age I felt that this way. What I'm going to say to you, Brother Sajid, is this. Of the people who are gay, and we, you know, don't try and bring in, well, they're not, you know, in Muslims they don't mention it because they don't want to be ostracised, but of people with faith and people with no faith, the vast majority of people are people with no faith.
Yeah.
They're the people who can openly say all these things. There are people who are Jewish and gay, there are people who are Muslim and gay, there are people who are Christian and gay, but I would suggest to you that percentage is far smaller than the people who are. So hang on.
Is it small because they
No,
know
it's not.
how they will be treated?
No,
if they
Sajid, did you hear my question?
Yeah.
Did you hear my question? Because I knew you were going to come out with that basic instinct, which is why I said, before you come out with your rhetoric, it don't work that way. So what I'm trying to say to you is I jumped ahead of your question because I knew you were going to come out with this. So, number one, no religion, higher proportion of saying that they're gay. Religion, lesser proportion. Forget about the ones who say, well, I can't say it because I'll be ostracized. Forget about that because we don't know.
So that's
we
the
stick
fact.
to the facts.
No,
The facts are.
hang on.
Hang on, Saj.
How can you say that? Because if, let's just say,
Do you know what facts mean?
in Oldham, so let's
Let's
say
there's 100 people.
let's just say that I am gay, and if I said in this community, hello everybody, I am gay, what do you think the reaction would be? What do the so what?
Sajid, this is where I tend to lose it with you. No, because I can't let you finish.
my sentence.
I cannot let you finish because it's a stupid point
Let
you're
me
going to
finish
make.
my sentence. Yeah, don't
Sajid, please.
listen. Yeah.
I'm giving it. I answered your question before I answered it.
But the thing
You
is,
know what it is?
Zahid, you're a presenter. You got to
Facts.
listen. You got to listen.
No,
You
not
can't
to
just listen to your
stupidity, no.
voice. You got to listen. Yeah. So the point is this: just because you don't disagree, I mean, I'm not even arguing my own argument. I'm just putting an argument for you, which you don't even want to listen to. Then you call yourself you're tolerant. How can you be tolerant? Can't just deny
Facts. Facts are.
You don't give it any facts.
I
You don't
believe-
give
I
any
always
facts.
stick to
You-
facts.
that's not a fact. You're
Is it
saying
dark? Hang on, is it night or day?
it's day right.
Right.
Your time ticking
know what
off.
else?
Make your point. Make your
I know
point.
what his point is. His point is that in the Muslim community, in the Christian, not somebody, people don't openly say it because they're going to be lambasted. So in other words, you don't know the facts. I'm saying I'm only sticking to the facts.
Okay,
that
so
are there.
what was your point?
My point
Yeah,
is
but
that
that
people with faith are less likely to be gay than people without faith. That's what I was saying.
No, but
factually.
your statistics only show that because the people who are gay from the religious community don't declare it because how they're going to get treated.
Exactly.
No, I'm
Thank
saying
Sam.
to you,
Thank
so
very
based
much.
on, that's why I said to him, before he goes down that road and they're going to be persecuted, so I can't stick my name up and put it down on there. If you can't stick your name up, you can't explain it. In other words, if that's the case, then you could argue in turn, well actually, everyone's gay, they just don't want to say it. We stick to the facts. The facts are that it's proven
Look,
that more people with religion
Yeah.
are not gay.
Yeah.
So hang on, so my point, what it led to was
You've
this.
got a point.
Yes.
Mashallah, you've got
Yeah.
a
You've got a
point.
point.
yes.
Yeah.
See, the
So,
thing is,
but
something
the thing, so what my point was, if we can say that people with religion
Yeah.
are less likely to become gay,
Yeah.
yeah, not come out. I mean, that could happen anyway. So less like, so it means that religious doctrine, if followed, is going to be a doctrine that is going to keep people within the confines of their own faith.
Yes.
So the point being that if people, as we've always banged on and said, follow their deen, follow their iman, it will address this desire
Yes.
and this confusion.
And address the challenge. Now, the thing is, that's what religion does, because, well, that's what Islam does, because Islam is not a religion, it's a system, right?
Yeah.
So it's a set of laws, do's and don'ts, just like, you know, my desire is to go round the roundabout the wrong way in this country, but I get a kick out of it, right? I get a kick out of, you know, maybe having sex with 5-year-olds. I might get a kick out of having sex with animals, okay? These are inclinations and challenges and desires.
Okay.
The point I'm making is that what religion does, or what Islam does as a system, it restrains them, challenges, and it asks you to control those desires, those weak desires. Now, once you control those, you become a better human being, a moral human being. So these are the points that we need to look at, and I think everybody's touched on this and it's gone round and round.
I think
How
what
it's
we're going to do
quite
now
good.
is I think we'll try to kind of
Wrap it up.
Let me go to the stuff first of all, then we'll go into the summary.
Can I just make one last point on that? You know, I just kind of thought about this now in the sense of, remember, you know, there's a principle, an-nadiru la hukma la, that, you know, the rare things don't have a hukum. You know, religion basically deals with norms more than rarities. That's how Sharia normally, you know, that's how it operates. Now, homosexuality, regardless of what you argue, the percentage of homosexuals within Muslims or within general mass population is a minority. It's a minority.
That's it.
Right? So, as it being a minority, Islam is going to focus on the majority norm more than the minority. So, you know, if there was a, say for instance, there's a verse of said, imagine if there was, in the sense of the natural state, Islam itself, as Muslims, we believe the natural state is opposite sex, you know, should be attracted
and even
to each
then
other.
with marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have sex or you can't have a sexual relationship. Even a man and a woman can't have a sexual relationship outside of marriage. Right?
And that-
So
and yeah,
this
and-
is just as bad.
Exactly. So there's regulations even with the natural approach. Now, obviously, some people might argue that, wait a minute, who declares naturality? But what I'm saying is, as Muslims, our faith, we're saying is, look, the natural process, the natural approach is man with woman, woman with man, along this is, and then that has terms and conditions also, marriage. Now, Islam will focus on that because that's the norm, that's the majority. The rarity is what is, you know, same sex. Now, if there was Islam catered for that as well, there will be no balance in the sense of the natural. People people will opt in possibly from the natural state to the rare state.
Yeah.
So Islam will deal with things that are normal and usual rather than something as minority. But the thing is, we don't know. Remember, there's difference between haqiqah, what we say reality, and sharia. Sharia deals with the norm, and that's what we're saying, that Sharia is declaring that that's wrong. Haqiqa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best on the Yawm al-Qiyamah. If these people really did have these inclinations that they were born with, we don't know what's going to take place on the day. But our judgment on that is wrong.
Yeah.
Khalas, it's
but
wrong.
The thing is, my brother, that yes, they could have been born with those challenges, just like everybody else has challenges, right? Somebody might have alcohol as a challenge. Somebody might be a gambler. That might be their challenge. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, each person or each community will have their own challenges.
Yeah,
right?
somebody will could have, of course.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the point.
Exactly, like what I'm saying is like, even if they come out with those desires,
Yeah.
they have to be in the confines of Sharia, because Sharia deals with the norm. What I'm saying is, for those people who say, look, we're born with this.
And it's
Unfortunately, the law won't take that into consideration. It's law. It's
I
law.
think what people say their stuff is what, again, it's a controversial question. That's why I think we need to make sure that we have these kind of answers, because this is what the mainstream media will throw at you, that what kind of a God, what kind of a Allah, will choose to ostracize certain people because of their sexuality.
It's not an ostracization though, is it? Is it not an ostracization?
Well,
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Sheikh put it down very, very eloquently, that I created women for you. I created women for you, and you prefer men. So your naturality, what is the natural state of a human being? The natural state of a human being is decided by the Creator who created you. That is what is deemed as the definition of natural. Not the definition of natural in connection with me. It might be natural for me to go and rob a bank. Somebody says to you, you know what? You are naturally born with this talent to go and rob banks. You were born for this, brother. Yeah? But it doesn't mean it's correct. And that is just me putting a fabrication on the word natural and giving it a new definition. However, God gives it a proper definition.
So do you think that in the society that we live in, do you think that there's a compatibility between these two mindsets, where we believe that it's wrong, it's a sin, you can't have those emotions, and the other side is, this is the way I was born, this is who I am, love is love. But do you think these two mindsets?
Of course there is. Forget compatible. It's not about compatibility. It's about interaction. Interaction is there. It's resided side by side for many, many years. There's not been an outcry of Muslims going out and beheading homosexuals, has there? All of a sudden, where are the stats? There isn't any. In fact, they reside amongst us. We're very compassionate about it, and there's no issue with it at all. When we do our open days or whatever, even in our own houses, there is absolutely no problem. I will never impose my values upon them. They will never impose their values on them. That's the understanding that we have. Just like somebody eating pork, somebody drinking alcohol. He's sat on the table, he's drinking alcohol. I'm not going to go and say, well, that's a major sin in Islam, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to now call you a kafir and blah. I'm not going to do that, right?
In
why
schools,
can't we coexist?
In schools, they take the children to churches, to synagogues, and to Hindu temples, and etc., mosques, etc. And I said to my son, that's good, because you then understand what they teach you. You don't have to agree with what they're teaching you. So in this way, in the same context, if you are told and you are taught and you observe what the people of that community believe, it's education for you. You don't have to agree
That's
with
absolutely fine. Let's keep it in context. Yeah, let's keep it in context. We run a food bank, yeah?
Yes.
63% of the indigenous population that we serve, white indigenous population, in our food bank, 63% of them can't read or write. Can't read or write. This is their country. They've never been to any other country. They weren't fourth generation migrants. They are not here on a commercial visa. They're not here on a highly skilled visa. They are born and bred here. 63% of them, brother, can't read and write. Surely our priority should be teaching that. Isn't it?
Yeah, true.
So where are our priorities gone?
Yep, right. Just to sum up, brother Safi, what do you want to say? Any final words from you?
Final
We're not
words.
asking any questions this time.
Final words would be, I think, the argument is quite clear in the sense of a lot of Muslims are uncomfortable with it, but at the same time, it needs to get taught in that sense, but to children, the reality exists out there. I think where the argument is how it's going to be delivered to them, and the solution for me is just quite straightforward. I think our concern is not them being exposed to it, but it's in the context of how it's being exposed. So we've got our own community organizations, enough of them inside the institutions. The institutions should just work with the schools. So the syllabus that they want to teach, if it's about them being taught it, then trust our organisations that can deliver it in the context and manner that we deem appropriate, that we can work with the parents. The parents will be happy that, you know what, it's getting taught by Muslims to Muslims. It's essentially the same thing, we'll be saying the same thing, but then at the end of the day, we'll be providing that context as Muslims. And that's the solution, I think, you know, because then both parties in that sense are happy. But, you know, wallahu alam.
Very good. Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one element that we are looking at. We are looking at syllabus, we're looking at the resources. We've already teamed up with the mosques in Oldham, and inshallah ta'ala, any other educational institutes, Islamic educational institutes that want to get involved with us, get onto us. Let's all group together, inshallah. Let's work with the schools. This is the real solution, is to work with the schools.
Brother Sajid, any final words?
The only thing I would say from what I've not already kind of mentioned is that, and I think we haven't had time to highlight this point, is in terms of making sure that the issue of sex education or relationship with sex education from an Islamic perspective, I believe, you know, it needs to be taught within the masjids. You know, from an Islamic perspective, if we're kind of, you know, a bit concerned about how the school is going to be, because it's not an Islamic school, then if the mosques taught this, I think we mentioned this many years ago, that, you know, the sex education should be openly taught, you know, in school, from the issue of, from the Quran, from the Sunnah, from the issue of fiqh, you know, talk about it. You know, what does Islam say about homosexuality, about transsexual? What does Islam say about having a sex change? What does Islam say about, you know, having an inclination, etc., etc.? Talk about this openly with parents and with children, so it's age appropriate. So then we can say, okay, no matter what is being taught in the secondary or primary school, they've got an alternative from a Islamic point of view. Starts giving that look now. Go on.
Can I just ask a question? Within the syllabus, for instance, it's a bit funny, yeah, but within the syllabus, for instance, okay, if Ahmed can have two daddies and Ahmed can have two mummies, whatever, yeah, if you want to say, you know, Muslims being homosexual and legalizing whatever, yeah,
that means it's got 4 of these.
Yeah, but then can Ahmed have 4 mummies?
That's a good question.
Depends on
As well, are they gonna? Is that gonna be? Can that be presented as a
But what
legal thing that children get told that, look, a man can have 4 wives?
I think
as Muslims.
what the issue is,
For the IRA.
the reality is,
No, but in school I'm talking about.
Saf,
Yeah, no, I
the
understand.
reality is, this is going to be taught, and what Naseem said and is working on is working with the schools so it can be taught in a way that will be compatible for the children. My alternative is, okay, that will happen to an extent, but our plan B should be that, you know, that this issue is openly discussed on the Jummah khutbah, you know, in Islamic studies, in the dars, in the Islamic study courses, yeah, in the madrasas, yeah, openly. Let's not be shy about it, because if your child is going to be exposed about it in school, so then parents will feel confident talking about it at home with their children. And I think this is not really talked about hardly ever. I think something that needs to be pushed.
Okay, Jazakallah, thanks for that. We're going to wrap up the show now. I've got a few text messages. It says here, only solution is to teach Islamic values to our children. The only problem is that we parents don't know how to effectively. We parents should be first taught how to do this. So, okay, so we just mentioned that one. Don't fight amongst each other. It's not a good example. This is a banter, me and Sajjad. It's not a fight. Trust me on that one. Another one here, it says here, Islam, we need to educate our children more. Okay, and then we've got some more text messages here. It says here, there's loads of examples here, and I'm gonna sum those up. So let's look at facts. The facts are that people of faith, some people have been fighting a battle against this since 2009. Other people haven't thought about it and they've been pretty much asleep. However, all communities of faith have now woke up, and then what they are saying is, look, we need to do something about it. So, what can we do and what can't we do? Number one, we can't stop it from happening because it's going to be a legislation. Number two, what we can do is we can actually write eloquently, not threateningly, to our schools and set up a meeting. And in a minute, I'm going to ask Brother Naseem to give out some details of how we can write those letters, or we can send those emails. Now, with anything, if we write an email or send an email, then what we do need is we need to follow it up. So I sent in a letter to my school. didn't hear anything for 3 or 4 days, sent another letter, didn't hear anything, and then phoned in and said, look, wrote to you twice, not had the courtesy of even a reply. So we have to follow it through. The second thing is, and this is the bit that I like the most, you can go into the ribs of what is being taught. So, for example, the brother or sister who sent the various text messages of the Rainbow Trust, who were expelled from the school. So what they are is, the Rainbow Trust is obviously a pro-gay organisation. What they're doing is, they're creating the material. That material is more, because the kids are, you know, if you say to them, listen, you know, how do you fancy, do you want to be Spider-Man or Superman today? I've never heard of Superman, I think I'll be Spider-Man. They can say yes, no, very easy to be manipulated. And the worry is, we don't want them to be manipulated.
Yeah.
So get involved with your schools and then go and find out from them what is their policy and what do they intend to do. And remind them that from a legal point of view, they only need to teach this once. So we're going to teach it once, can we be present? If we're going to have an open assembly, you can teach it in an open assembly. But for me, let's find out what the material is that's being taught. Is that material accurate based on any, or is it, you know, 50% of people when we've only interviewed 2? The second thing is, with Islam, it doesn't show hatred to anybody. Brother Nassim very mentioned, there is a third community in Pakistan. Those people are not ostracised, so we can show tolerance. So if somebody is gay, somebody is lesbian, and I come across them, I don't hate them. You know, I don't have any interaction with them. If that person is Muslim, then Allah's law is what prevails, not their desire. And Islam isn't going to suddenly change its position to accommodate this, because that is God's way. We can't turn around and say, well, actually, we'll find some sheikh who will give us a new ruling and that will allow us to do this. Well, the sheikh hasn't got that authority. God's law, God knows best. He's the designer and creator and know of everything. So that's the best thing. Show no hatred to anybody, show no animosity to anybody, but at the same time, defend your right. And the argument with me and Brother Nassim, and I'm sure Brother Saj and Safi have, is, if someone wants to explain why they are gay, great, I'll have a listen to that one. But I can also explain why I'm Muslim. Yeah. And I can also, so we should be able to have a two-way debate, and that shouldn't be considered to be homophobic. So if you can tell me why it's good to be gay, I can tell you why it's good to be Muslim. Brother Nassim, any kind of ways that you can help out with regards to eloquent letters or anything else?
Yeah, I think the very first course of action that people should be taking is go and raise your concerns genuinely, articulate them well, be pleasant, stay within the remit of the greatest example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't lose your cool. Go and speak to school. Go and speak to the school. Articulate your concern. Your concerns are what? Your concerns are not that it's been made law. You're not going to go and change the law. What you want to do is you'd like to know more about the resources. You'd like to know more about the lesson plans. If you'd like to get in touch with me, my telephone number is 07976 333335. That number again is 07976 333335. Do drop me a text. And I'll send you the link for the WhatsApp group. Inshallah ta'ala, you can join. Our WhatsApp group is not a banter one. We're not here to slate anybody. It's admin only. So I'm the only person who posts on it. But it's just to keep everybody informed, give them updates as to what's happening in Oldham. Let's worry about our locality, our neighbourhood. Let's set up good practice. If we set up an example here, inshallah ta'ala, I'm sure other local authorities will take it on board and they will roll that out. The legislation was introduced in 2009 or 2008 and out came the Equalities Act, and now this is being it's gone through the process of Parliament. Everything's happened. It's already being rolled out. It's going to be law by 2020, September 2020, next year. However, for the early adoption program, the schools have been teaching it early and they are getting extra ranking by Ofsted and brownie points. So where have you been all your life?
Jazakallah khair, thanks for that one. So just to recap, with regards to this, I think it's upon you because you're not only going to be accountable for your children, but your children one day will be accountable for their own children. And the steps we make today will make it easy for them. And that is very simple. You know, We don't disagree with a lot. What we want to know is, what are you going to teach? How are you going to teach it? And how often? And what's the material that you're going to teach? Let's have a look at that. And then we can actually help, and the schools will be quite helpful.
Absolutely.
If you speak to them, from what we can gather.
The actual policies, the guidelines actually stipulate that. You know, that the
That parents
consultation,